Shalom to the family. Once again, my apologies for that last live stream. Like I've been telling y'all, YouTube has been acting real janky lately with me when it comes to my live streams. I don't know why. So I again apologize for that. We're gonna get right into this. Y'all see the title of the video. I'm not gonna wait for everybody to come in. Those that miss it can actually go back and watch it when I upload it shortly. This is gonna be a short video. So like I said on the last live stream, what you have now is you have a news cycle with a whole bunch of different things going on that are all distractions. Everyone already knows what's going on with this whole R. Kelly thing. It's just everywhere. 24 hours on the news cycle, they're talking about it. Every hour there's a new revelation or new person coming forward. That's a distraction. Then you have this whole thing with the government shutdown, which has many layers and sub-layers to it, which is also 24 hours on the news cycle, nonstop, right? Now, today, you have the news cycle going where you have one of the first Democrats to declare for the presidency in 2020, and it's a so-called black woman, and her name is Kamala Harris. She's a senator from San Francisco, California, okay? So now, what you have is on my timeline, and the reason why I felt like I needed to do this video really quickly, what you have on my timeline is you have black people going absolutely crazy up and down, especially on Instagram, not so much my Facebook timeline, because the majority of people that I'm friends with on Facebook are Israelites. But on my Instagram timeline, the amount of black people that are going absolutely crazy and jumping for joy because this woman is running for president is borderline disgusting. Because it shows that black people have a very short memory. And I'm using the word black people just for the interest of those that will watch the video that have no knowledge that they're Israelites. So I'm just going to speak in general terms. It shows that black people have a short attention span. You had a so-called black president in office for 8 years that didn't pass any legislation that pertains to you. Homosexuals got their legislation during his time. The state of Israel got their billions of dollars every year during his presidency, and many other groups, but you so-called blacks and Hispanics, you didn't get anything from your last so-called black president. But that means nothing to you. You have a short memory. That's a problem. Problem B is this. Black folks don't research anything. The so-called white media will throw a person in front of you, and they'll look like you somewhat, and you'll just lose your mind. Oh, he black. Oh, she black. So I'm voting for them. Now, I understand about systematic oppression in the last 100 years and what happened to us in the society. I get all that stuff. I get it. I really do get it, right? But we got to do our research. So really quickly, I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Hopefully the computer won't crash again. There we go. All right. So this is Kamala Harris, in case you're living under a rock. This is Kamala Harris. And again, she's a senator from San Francisco, and she declared herself for the presidency or presidential run in 2020, right? So as I said, when black folks saw this, they absolutely went crazy. They went crazy. But see, those of us that have knowledge, we understand the way the system is set up. So we're going to do our research to find out a little more. I said I want to know a little more about this lady, a little bit more. First thing I do when I see somebody that the media is propping up in front of us, who are you married to? That's my first question. Who are you married to? So I just did another basic Google search, and boom, there's your wonderful so-called black woman. She's married to the white man. That's her husband. So now I have to ask a question. How much of your interests can this so-called black woman have if she's laying down every night and sleeping with you know who? Okay? How much of your interest can she have? Really? What type of money and funding do you think is behind this so-called black woman? What type of money do you think is behind her as a Democrat? I'm going to tell you who's behind her. You have so-called Jewish groups that's going to be financing her. I don't think she's going to win. I really don't think she's going to win, but I'm just saying, you're going to have so-called Jewish groups that's going to be financing her run for presidency. You're going to have Black Lives Matter, which is going to be financing, which is not run by black people, okay? is going to be financing her presidency, and you're going to have so-called LGBT groups that's going to be giving money to finance her presidency, and that is who she's going to be beholden to, not you. I want y'all to know that. Y'all are going to vote for her because of how she looks. You're going to vote for her because she's a so-called black woman. That's what you're going to do, not knowing she does not have your best interest at heart. But somebody might say, hey, how do you know that? How do you know that? Yeah, she got a white husband. Yes, yes. But let's give her a chance. Let's give her a chance, right? Well, this is what I found out about Kamala Harris, right? This is a piece that is from the New York Times. Y'all can see that the New York Times, right? And you can see the title of the article. Okay, so the title of the article says Kamala Harris was not a progressive prosecutor. She was not a progressive prosecutor. Let's read a little bit about this article and see what we find right here. Right? It says the senator was often on the wrong side of history when she served as California's Attorney General. And this is written by Laura Bezalon, January 17th, 2019. Okay, so let's read a little bit about Miss Harris, the so-called black woman that's running for president that people are going crazy on my timeline about on Instagram. Oops, I went a little too far. Let's go back. Let's go back. Here we go. Okay. San Francisco, with growing recognition that prosecutors hold the key to a fairer criminal justice system, the term progressive prosecutor has almost become trendy. This is how Senator Kamala Harris of California, a likely presidential candidate and a former prosecutor, describes herself. She's no longer a likely presidential candidate. She declared for president today, right? But she's not. Time after time, when progressives were urged her to embrace criminal justice reforms as a district attorney and then the state's attorney general, Miss Harris opposed them or stayed silent. Most troubling, Miss Harris fought tooth and nail to uphold wrongful convictions that had been secured through misconduct that included evidence tampering, false testimony, suppression of crucial information by prosecutors. Do you know who the majority of the people that went to jail due to wrongful convictions, misconduct, evidence tampering, false testimony, and suppression of information? Do you know who the majority of people that went to prison behind this so-called black woman ignoring this is? It's us. It is us. And black people with their short memory span, the short-term memory span, will totally forget about all this stuff and vote for her because she looked like them, not realizing the money and the power behind them. And that's why she's being pushed, because they know black people will vote for her simply because she's black. And I'm already seeing that on my timeline. Not to say that she's going to win, but this is just a lesson for our people. It's crazy how short of a memory span our people have. It's crazy. Let's continue. I don't want this to be long. Let's continue. Y'all can do your own research on this woman. And as y'all see people talking about her, y'all can find your own research, your own articles and everything and show them. I'm just giving you something concise and condensed because you're going to be seeing this woman. You're going to be seeing her face for the next 2 years. The next at least 2.5 years, because the so-called presidential cycle, as candidates begin to declare for presidency, is starting now. So you're going to be seeing her a lot. And you'll especially be seeing her on so-called black programs and so-called black entertainment shows and so-called black talk shows and stuff like that. And they're going to be supporting her, but they need to know who they're supporting. They're supporting someone that was opposed to overturning convictions of people that have been convicted through official misconduct like tampering, false testimony, suppression of information, etc. She was opposed to overturning those convictions, and that was our people. Understand that. Let's go. Consider her record as San Francisco's district attorney from 2004 to 2011. Ms. Harris was criticized in 2010 for withholding information about, let me highlight this. Ms. Harris was criticized in 2010 for withholding information about a police laboratory technician who had been accused of intentionally sabotaging her work and stealing drugs from the lab. A memo surfaced showing that Ms. Harris's deputies knew about the technician's wrongdoing and recent conviction, but failed to alert defense lawyers. A judge condemned Mrs. Harris's indifference to the systematic violation of defendants' constitutional rights. She was indifferent to a defendant's constitutional rights. Someone that was intentionally sabotaged. She didn't give a damn. Let's continue reading. Ms. Harris contested the ruling by arguing that the judge, whose husband was a defense attorney, had spoken publicly about the importance of disclosing evidence, had a conflict of interest. Ms. Harris lost. More than 600 cases handled by the corrupt technician were dismissed. Let's look at that again. More than 600 cases handled by the corrupt technician were dismissed. This lady was in her office, and those under her were corrupt as hell. And this is the black face that they're giving you running for president in 2020. And watch how our people go absolutely googly-eyed for her. Why? Because they don't do any research. But that's what we're for. Let's continue. I ain't got much more. Let's continue. Ms. Harris also championed state legislation under which parents whose children were found to be habitually truant in elementary schools should be prosecuted despite concerns it would disproportionately affect low-income people of color. In other words, she championed a law that says if a black person or a so-called Hispanic person, if your child missed a certain amount of days of school, you should go to jail. Doesn't matter why, but you should be prosecuted and possibly be put in jail behind that. She was behind that. And as the article says, who will be disproportionately affected by that? Us. What are we seeing? That when she was state attorney general, a lot of the laws that she championed were laws against us, to throw our people into the prison industrial system, to feed the prison industrial system. She was a big proponent of that. Let's continue. Ms. Harris was similarly regressive as the state's attorney general. When a federal judge in Orange County ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional in 2014, Ms. Harris appealed. In a public statement, she made the bizarre argument that the decision undermines important protections that our court provides to defendants. The approximately 740 men and women awaiting execution in California might disagree. Let's continue. Let's continue. Okay. In 2014, she declined to take a position on Proposition 47, a ballot initiative approved by voters that reduced certain low-level felonies to misdemeanors. She laughed that year when a reporter asked if she would support the legalization of marijuana for recreational use. Ms. Harris finally reversed course in 2018, long after public opinion had shifted on the topic. So now California, as y'all know, marijuana, this is not an argument about whether marijuana should be used and not used. We're not having that discussion right now. Right now, marijuana is legal in California. Yet you have people that are in prison and jail for that offense, going back to 2014. So they were trying to get her, the voters in California in 2014 wanted them to make it legal for medical use. So you have people that were actually prosecuted under that old law that's in jail right now. That's unjust. But America's unjust, right? So why would they not give us an unjust candidate and make it a blackface? Because black people are going to go and run behind her. Why not? Let's continue. There's more. Not much more, but there's more. Let's continue. In 2000, went too far. Let's go back. Here we go. In 2015, she opposed the bill requiring her office to investigate shootings involving police officers. Let's highlight that and let that soak in for a second. In 2015, she opposed the bill requiring her office to investigate shootings involving police officers. So when a police officer shoots somebody, she was not interested in investigating whether it was lawful or unlawful. Translation, she didn't give a damn. And who is the main people that's being shot down? Us. Let's continue. As she refused to support statewide, let me get rid of that so y'all can see where I am right here. And she refused to support statewide standards regulating the use of body-worn cameras by police officers. For this, she incurred criticism from an array of left-leaning reformers, including Democratic state senators, the ACLU, and San Francisco's elected public defender. The activist Felicia Jones, who has supported Ms. Harris for years, asked how many more people need to die before she steps in. And I'm going to answer that for you, Ms. Jones. It could be hundreds, it could be thousands. She still ain't going to give a damn. Because the money that's behind her doesn't give a damn. The people and the powers that be behind her don't give a damn. And most of all, and most sadly, because she has a black face and she's running for president, most black people won't give a damn either. Okay? I'm just letting you know. This is what we're going to be looking at and who we're going to be looking at for the next 2 years. All right? Let's continue. We're almost done because this can't be long. Worst of all, Worst of all, though Ms. Harris's record is wrongful conviction cases. Excuse me, I read that wrong. I apologize. Worst of all, though, is Ms. Harris's record in wrongful conviction cases. Consider George Gage, an electrician with no criminal record, who was charged in 1999 with sexually abusing his stepdaughter, who reported the allegations years later. The case largely hinged on his stepdaughter's testimony that Mr. Hinge was convicted. Go down. It says afterwards, I keep going past the thing, 1 second. Afterwards, the judge discovered that the prosecutor had unlawfully held back potentially exculpatory evidence, including medical reports indicating that the daughter had been repeatedly untruthful with law enforcement. Her mother described her as a pathetic liar who lives her lies. Even her own mother said that that man didn't do that. Medical reports said that man didn't do that. This black woman that's running for president that everybody's going gaga over didn't give a damn about that. Okay? In 2015, when the case reached the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco, Mrs. Harris's prosecutors defended the conviction. A conviction that hinged on medical reports indicating that the stepdaughter had been untruthful. Medical reports indicated she was untruthful. Her mother called her a pathological liar, and our so-called presidential candidate, the so-called black woman, defended the prosecutor's conviction anyway. Anyway, this is who we're dealing with, okay? They pointed out that Mr. Gage, while forced to act as his own lawyer, had not properly raised the legal issue in the lower court as the law required. Moving on. The appellate judges acknowledged this immediate impediment and sent the case to mediation, a clear signal for Ms. Harris to dismiss the case. When she refused to budge, the court upheld the conviction on the technicality, and Mr. Gage is still in prison serving a 70-year sentence. Let's continue. That case is not an outliner. Ms. Harris also fought to keep Daniel. 1 second. Ms. Harris also fought to keep Daniel Larson in prison on a 28-year to life sentence for possession of a concealed weapon, even though his trial lawyer was incompetent and there was compelling evidence of his innocence. Relying on a technicality against Ms. Harris argued that Mr. Larson failed to raise his legal argument in a timely fashion. This time she lost. She also defended Johnny Baca's conviction for murder, even though judges found the prosecutor presented false testimony at trial. Okay? False testimony at trial, but she upheld it anyway. It doesn't matter to her. She relented only after a video of the oral argument received national attention and embarrassed her office. So in other words, she had to be exposed nationally in order for her to back down, not because the evidence made her back down, but because she received national attention. It was embarrassing to her because I'm sure pretty much back then she already knew she was going to make a run for president. So because she was embarrassed about it, that's why she relented. But otherwise than that, that dude could have stayed in prison and rotted for the rest of his life. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. And then there's Kevin Cooper, a death row inmate whose trial was infected by racism and corruption. So now he sought advanced DNA testing to prove his innocence, but Ms. Harris opposed it. And after the New York Times expose on the trial went viral, she reversed her opinion. All this is a shame because the state's top prosecutor has the power and the imperative to seek justice. In cases of tainted convictions, that means conceding error and overturning them. Rather than fulfilling that obligation, Ms. Harris turned legal technicalities into weapons so she could cement injustices. In Truths We Hold, Ms. Harris recently published memoir. She writes, America has a deep, dark history of people using power of the prosecutor as an instrument of injustice. She adds, I know this history well, of innocent men framed of charges brought against people without sufficient evidence, of prosecutors hiding information that exonerates defendants of the disproportionate application of the law. But yet this is exactly what she did. All too often she was on the wrong side of history. It is true that politicians must make concessions to get the support of key interest groups. That's the most important part of this article. Did y'all hear that? It is important to understand that politicians must make concessions to get the support of key interest groups. And that's who's going to support her presidency. These special interest groups are going to be the ones that's behind her, that's fueling her campaign and giving her money. So she has a black face. She sold the majority of our people up the river while she was the Attorney General of California. She has a white husband. So the odds is stacked against us. And I guarantee you, you're going to see black people telling you that we should support her simply because she's black without doing any research. And that's the shame in all this. Let's continue. The fierce collective opposition of the law enforcement and local district attorneys associations can be hard to overcome at the ballot box. But in her career, Ms. Harris did not barter or trade to get the support of more conservative law and order types. She gave it all away. All right. So let's continue. Let's get to the last couple of paragraphs and then we'll be done. Of course, the full picture is more complicated. During her tenure as the district attorney, Ms. Harris refused to seek the death penalty in a case involving the murder of a police officer, and she started a successful program that offered first-time non-violent offenders a chance to have their charges dismissed if they completed a rigorous vocational training. And as Attorney General, she mandated implicit bias training and was awkward for her work in correcting a backlog in the testing of rape kits. So they're going to focus on this part, which is probably the minority of her work, and they're not going to focus on the majority. That's why the article at the top said what? Often she was on the wrong side of the law, meaning the majority of the times she was on the wrong side of the law and the wrong side of history. But there were times where she did the right thing. They're only going to focus on this. Let's continue. It says here, but if Kamala Harris wants people who care about dismantling mass incarceration and correcting miscarriages of justice to vote for her, she needs to radically break from her past. They're letting you know that her past, for the most part, is not good, with some exceptions. A good first step would be to apologize to the wrongfully convicted people she fought to keep in prison and to do what she can to make sure they get justice. She should start with George Gage. All right. So I just wanted to, I just kind of wanted to bring that information to you, brothers and sisters. Like I said, I'm not going to really be on here too long. I just wanted to bring that to y'all because you're going to see and hear a lot about this lady for the next 2 years. You're going to see and hear a lot about her. So I kind of just wanted you guys to be aware of who you're looking at and what you're seeing, because for the most part, there's going to be a lot of black folks that's going to be, they're going to be swayed and they're going to be kind of like just enamored with the fact that she's black, and that's all that really matters to them. How many of our people voted for Obama simply just because he was black, and that was it? A lot of our people. You see what I'm saying? Because black people are just gullible, and the media knows that, and they use that to their advantage every chance they get. I'm not saying that she's going to actually win, because I don't think she's going to win. But the point and the fact that she's even running and even putting her on the news cycle and everything, a lot of black people is going to fall for that. Right. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for me. Make sure you guys subscribe to Maccabeestv. As always, I love y'all. Peace and blessings and safety to the whole nation of Israel. Just a quick video. And with that, I say shalom. Make sure y'all subscribe, by the way. Subscribe to Maccabeestv. And if you haven't already, please hit the like button. Hit the like button and share the video. Shalom, fam.